Hi, welcome back to another episode of Aviation Champions. I'm your host, Miranda Gahn, co-founder of Lexero Aviation Law Firm. Today we're meeting with Mistie Fox. She's the founder and CEO of ONE35 Compliance Solutions. Good morning, Mistie.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm great. So glad to have you on the show. So tell us about how you came to find yourself in aviation. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, looking back, I think that it all started in high school, and I didn't even know it. When I was in high school, I wanted to be a broadcast journalist, but I would always go to the airport on the weekends, just randomly. Hey, mom, I'm going to go to the airport, and I just like to hang out at the airport. I didn't realize, later in life that aviation would be my world. Fast forward however many years, I went to work for Southwest Airlines and I
Okay.
worked on the ground. I worked in the air as a flight attendant. And then September 11th happened and I started sizing up everyone that came on the airplane. I was like, I can take them down with a coffee pot or a fire extinguisher. And I realized that was not a healthy environment for me. So I went to work for the FAA and worked for them for probably about 6 months until the TSA was formed. And when
Okay.
the TSA was formed, they sucked us out of the FAA and put us into the TSA. I was an inspector for aviation. I inspected air carriers, airports, indirect air carriers, cargo facilities. Um, I was in an international program, so I conducted assessments worldwide. Um, I was in the Safe Skies for Africa program, so I taught security to African governments,
Okay. Wow.
aviation security to African governments. Then I started to realize that I wanted to be a mom, so I needed to stop traveling because I wanted to be there for my baby at the time. So I
Sure.
became a service inspector and inspected trains and like light rail and buses. Still all with the TSA. My entire government career essentially was with the TSA, with the exception of that little small snippet with the FAA. Um, then one day, my director came to me and said that he wanted me to start a communications team for the state of Arizona. So I did that for a while and realized that inspections was where I wanted to be compliance related, working directly with the operators. So I became a principal security specialist with the TSA.
Okay.
And in that role, I worked directly with 135 operators. I approved their 12.5 programs. So they wanted to carry revenue passengers and they were 12,005 pounds and over. They had to, get their approval page from the TSA. That was one of the things I did with them, approve their training. I was essentially their liaison, anything security related. I had over 60 operators as a principal security specialist that I worked with at any given time. It was also the program lead for CMAP, which is Crew Member Access Point. It is the new KCM. Known crew member is changing to Crew Member Access Point. So I was the
Sure.
program lead for that. And then the new administration came in. President Trump came in and wanted everyone to go back into the office. And my office was in DC and I lived in Arizona. So they offered me early retirement and I took
Well, that is really an impressive career path. And honestly, I think, a lot of people, take it for granted. You go through TSA now as kind of a standard protocol to go through the airport, but um, there's so much more to it than you realize. So tell us a little bit then. I think that's a great segue into talking about your business, 135 Compliance Solutions. Tell us a little bit about that.
So when I worked for TSA, I really saw the need that 135 operators they need help. I worked with them one on one on a daily basis, and I realized that a lot of them don't have the bandwidth to deal with security. They don't have the experience with security. Everything is safety related.
Right.
They know everything about the FAA, the drug program, and everything that they need for the FAA, but security is so foreign to so many of these operators, especially the smaller ones that don't have, like a compliance focused department that can have
Yeah.
people especially focus on security. Um, and, especially startups. I worked with so many startups and they were just so confused about the whole process of, filling out the paperwork. How do I fill it out? What training do I need? What's a CHRC? So I really saw that I could help all of these all of these smaller operators and even some of the larger 135 operators. Things that would take them months to do, I could do in a week.
Oh, wow.
And so I really felt like it was something that I was compelled to do because I knew that I could help so many people.
Well, and so tell us then if a 135 operator is new or trying to get established, what would you help them with?
So there was a very lengthy process that they go through with DSA to get their 12.5 standard security program approval page. And depending on the operator, it can take up to a year.
Oh,
And
wow.
I, like I said earlier, this is something that I issue to these operators. So I know
Okay.
exactly what needs to happen. I know exactly how to do it the very first time. There's no, going back and forth with mistakes and errors and fixing this and fixing that. I know how to do everything correctly the first time. And for someone that, they're focused on so many other things, starting up their operation, I can get them closer to, actually making money so much faster than if they were to do it on their own. Like literally within a couple of months versus a year.
Wow. Well, and I think, an interesting point as I was preparing for this interview is that most people are focused on FAA regulations and safety and making sure that, you're running your business compliantly. But I don't think there's a lot of focus on security. And so, what do you think would be like a common misconception that you could tell our audience about when it comes to security? I think, most people think of the TSA and that's kind of where the conversation or the thought ends. But tell us about something that maybe it's often overlooked.
Well, I think there's so many things within security that are overlooked because again, it's just not the focal point. The focal point is safety. So there's so many things. Employee vetting. I think that employee vetting is very important, and a lot of time it can be dismissed. Um, but then you don't actually know exactly who you have working for you.
Sure.
With the betting that is established now, it's a constant. People are constantly being vetted, and so it's something that's very important. And I think that people, it's a process, right? So if the employee isn't filling out all the paperwork to be established, to be vetted, I think that a lot of times operators just get exhausted to try and chase after these employees to get all the information to get vetted, and then they're just, they fall off that way. And so, they're not being vetted. So I think that that's something that's overlooked. And, one of my services that I offer is a security coordinator. That's a requirement for the 12.5 program to have a
Yeah.
security coordinator. Um, so one of the services I offer is that role for operators. And what's great about that is I can stay on top of those things where, operators, smaller ones, they don't have the bandwidth to stay on top of all of these different security regulations. It's second nature for me. So I know all the regulations like the back of my head. I know the security,
Sure.
you know, I, I have it all. I don't have to look it up. It's, I know it. I've done it for so many years. So that's something that I can take off operators' plate and and just make sure that they are in compliance. They don't need to worry anything about TSA. Um, I have that all taken care of for them. But you certainly, back, I think that that is something that's very important that really gets overlooked is employee vetting.
Wow. Well, you bring up a really good point, employee vetting. And I think folks who are maybe using 135 operators to travel might take that for granted. So it's great that you offer that service. I mean, and truly, if you're really to summarize what it is that you offer in terms of servicing, is you worked for the industry. You know the insider baseball. You speak the language. You know the regulations, and you could definitely fast track and fast forward those kinds of compliance concerns with the government on behalf of 135 operators. Would you say that's fair?
Yes, absolutely. And the wonderful thing is I still have all of my relationships, you know, with the
Of
government. And
course.
so,
Yeah,
uh, whereas operators don't know where to go to get answers, or, they need help with paperwork or questions on the regulation. Either I know all of that, or if I don't, I know exactly who I need to go to get the answers. So,
sure.
um, I mean, I'm happy to help. I just want to be a resource to operators that have questions, or need help, or anything else.
Absolutely.
I'm just so happy to help.
So, Misty, where can they find you?
And my on LinkedIn. And also can be found at 135cs.com, and that the number 135cs.com, also Instagram and Facebook.
Okay. Well, that's excellent. Well, great job for what you're doing and bringing awareness too, of course, to these types of concerns. We really appreciate that. And we wish you the best as you progress and help out 135 operators. Um, we look forward to staying in touch with you, Misty. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me.